like doing something,
Yeah.
we'd be interested. We'd be
100%.
interested. Atlanta Falcons fans would be interested in Michael Vick. So welcome everybody. Sorry we're a few minutes late, but happy to have you here. You can see that Nick Kendell has a different locale. So moving up in the world, out of the basement into the penthouse. Me, I'm still in the basement.
Yeah, that's we have a shared office space. My wife's desk is behind me, so hopefully it doesn't look too messy. And the dog is in the kennel right next to me. I haven't let him out yet, so if you hear any whining, it's not my wife.
It's probably
the
me. It's probably gonna be me. So the kids are at school, so the whining's coming from this end right here.
No whining to go on right now, though, because all is well in Bronco land, as Mike Kliss would say. The Broncos rookie numbers just came out. Things are progressing. We're over 10 days now away from the draft class, so excited, and we got some Broncos stuff to talk about. It's a little bit auxiliary Broncos stuff, but still, let's get into everybody who's joining us right now. Obviously, since the group only went up, gosh, I don't know, like 10 minutes ago, we don't have the best numbers in here, but George is in the house, so I'm actually up on time. Let's go. Well, George, thank you for joining us for Broncos for Breakfast, and the Jedi's Hut is in here as well. Hey guys, well, hello to you, and we have Jedi Hut saying Tim Tebow is better than Noah Fant. Let's go. Well, that's awesome. Let's get to it. Let's do the matters of business, guys. This is Broncos for Breakfast. We're going to be joining you typically on time, exactly at 8 o'clock Mountain Time today. A little bit late, but that's okay. In the general vicinity, the air bars, if you will. And you guys can follow the mothership at Mile High Huddle. That can do us a heck of a lot of good. Also, check out the merchandise store. I'm wearing my Mile High Insiders hat right here. It's kind of looking pretty good. The nice blue there.
You can't spell swag wrong. Because swag is an acronym. It means something.
Oh, man, take that up with Chad. He means hard.
What the hell does SCH, what's the CH stand for? Swag means something. It's like saying NFL and adding in NFL.
Oh, man, I'm going to have to give Chad a hard time. He's been on the swag train for a bit, so that's a hilarious observation. We got Scott's also YouTube page, guys. Go check it out. He has a lot of content on there. And if you guys comment or interact with him at all on his YouTube page, he will get back to you. So watch the video and heck, you might learn something. I know I have going over to Scott's channel. So youtube.com/C/Scott Kennedy. Again, this is Broncos for Breakfast. And you guys can find us on Twitter as well. You can follow me at Nick Kendell MHH and Scott at Scout Kennedy, SCOUT. Also, guys,
I've started a new series, Nick, Best Evers. So I started it with recruiting, talking sums, but I want to start doing it with guys like you as well. With what's your all Broncos team? I think that could be fun. Your favorite moment, all those type, and let's have people come in and comment. So I want to go team by team, but we just started it yesterday. Did it with Brandon Huffman, talking about the best players we'd seen, the best high school teams we'd seen, which isn't a huge scale of audience, but it's fun. We enjoy doing that kind of stuff. So, but good morning, everybody. And good afternoon. If you are from overseas, it is already afternoon, and I know we got some Broncos Nation is worldwide. So good morning, good afternoon, good night. That's what I said to my son after he watched 3 pitches go by on Saturday.
Oh, yeah. Well, we got Marty coming in here. Good morning. Hope all is well in Broncos country. We got Higher Learning. Good morning from Hawaii. I've never been Higher Learning. You have to let me know. Tickets are actually pretty cheap from Seattle, and I don't know how long we'll be in Seattle, but I definitely want to go there before we move out. We got Mike coming in here, Mike 5.56. Hopefully that's your grade point average, Mike. Good morning, guys.
It's my 40 time. At least it used to be. It used to be my 40. Now it might be my shuttle.
Oh, Higher Learnings has a Chad probably doesn't know what swag means in the Urban Dictionary, but thank you for letting us know, Higher Learnings. With Jamal Killing's in here. Jamal's always joining us. Good morning to you, Jamal. One of my favorites coming in. Ann Rivera. Good morning to Ann. Good morning, Nick and Scott, and Broncos Country. James and Goni coming in here. Go Broncos, Denver Broncos for life. And also, if you guys see, I dropped Scott's sub confirmation here over on YouTube, Twitch, Periscope, et cetera, et cetera. So make sure you guys follow that.
If you're on a desktop, that will auto subscribe you. And I don't like the word subscription because that makes you think you're paying for something. No, it's just a follow. You can even mute me. I just need to get to 1,000. Yeah. You can mute notifications. I don't care. Once I get to that 1,000, because I have so much evergreen content on there that the stuff that I do from January could pop up and get a lot of views. And once you get to 1,000, you can start monetizing that. And that'll be a big help for me.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. Check out Scott's work there. And we got Victor Rios saying good morning, guys. We got Facebook user, whoever you are, but morning from the hated Chiefs Kingdom. I'll be honest, guys. I dislike the Chiefs immensely, but I have family who are Chiefs fans. North Central Missouri is where a lot of my family's from. So I don't hate the Chiefs as much, but the Raiders, I mean, I've never met a Raider fan I like. So karaoke, Chris, come in here. What up, fellas? And we got a couple questions in here for you, Scott. Who is your team?
Chelsea, the Blues. Chelsea's my favorite team. Atlanta Braves. I'm lifelong Atlanta sports. So, as you get older, I don't know, your priorities change a little bit. I'm not nearly as passionate. I threatened to quit a job one time when they said I couldn't go to an Auburn, Florida game in Gainesville. I'm like, no, I'm going to the game. So you guys figure it out. If you want me to come back Monday, let me know. Now I'd be like, I won't even go across the street. It's too much of a hassle to go to these games. So, which is a question I wanted to have for everybody. The schedules get released on Wednesday.
Yes.
Do you care? I mean, who is this a big deal for? I mean, is it for you that you want to plan to go to the games or that type of stuff? Because, there's not like a traveling away support like there is, in England in soccer where the whole country is the size of the state of Georgia. I'm not going to Seattle. You might plan one trip, you might do one road trip with your friends, but do you really care? Are you interested? If so, tell me why, because I'm interested, because I don't care. I'm not going to the games. I'll find out when. I don't even know when they're on until Friday. Oh, crap. It was last night. I missed it.
And we got James coming in here. I believe with the stars, we don't have a producer working in the background, so I only have the StreamYard up and running. But thank you, James, for the star contributions here, I'm assuming. And George is poking you here, saying, anybody else think City wins the UCL? It does seem like City is the betting favorite.
Everybody thinks City wins the UCL.
But you never know. I'll ask you this. Just we'll go down the soccer path. Just one instance. Who was the more unlikely winner? Chelsea this year or Chelsea in 2012 when they beat Bayern? Because nobody thought they were going to beat Bayern in 2012.
I think that if they were to win it this year, if you go back 6 months, you'd say Chelsea. Are you kidding me? Whereas if you were 6 months before that, Chelsea was a powerful team, had sniffed several finals, had gotten robbed out of a couple finals, that it wasn't so much of a surprise that they'd be in it and could win it. Now, if you're talking about one game now, before the game, this Chelsea team is given a better chance to beat City than that Chelsea team was given against Bayern Munich in Munich. So I would hedge that this is a bigger underdog story on the whole, but that game was a bigger underdog match.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm one of my best friends is from Munich. He's a big Bayern fan, and we watched that game together, and it got a little heated. Just a little temper flying, just two passionate guys. That's what happens sometimes. So let's get into what the main topic is here today, because while it is auxiliary Broncos related, it's still, people still talk about him all over Broncos Twitter, social media, etc. And that is Tim Tebow back in the NFL. Absolutely crazy to me. He's got a chance at baseball. He's out now, and his old former coach at University of Florida, Urban Meyer, brings him in to be a tight end. ? Scott, what are your thoughts here? And obviously we can go back a ways because you've been doing this for a bit. Obviously you remember Tebow during the heyday, and you're talking about favorite memories earlier, or favorite moments. It's not the best moment in Broncos country, but that Demaryius Thomas slant and the Pittsburgh Steelers game, talk about long shots. Man, it still doesn't make sense how that game happened, but here we are. So Tim Tebow back in the NFL, Scott.
So what year was he drafted? About 2011?
I think it was the 2011 draft because Demaryius Thomas was the year before.
I was actually doing some work with NFL Network at the time and was on TV comparing him to Dallas Clark. And he was their size is similar. Dallas is a little bit bigger, but their explosion, they both had like 38-inch verticals. Tim Tebow, ironically, had a 6'6" L cone. I'm like, the man sold his soul. We figured it out right there, which is elite. That's incredible. And 10-inch hands. He had hands like baskets. I'm like, this guy needs to go the Dallas Clark route. Dallas was always a tight end, but I've been pushing for this move since he was going to get drafted. I went so far as to say, the host, Paul Burmeister, I think, said something like, his agent won't hear that. I was like, well, his agent should hear that because Dallas Clark went in the first round and Tim Tebow's not gonna. And he did. Yeah. But he was but it's 10 years too late. So, that's what I think is this, he was 10 years too late. But the thought process since then was that he took a beating at Florida. He took a beating at Florida that I don't think he was ready to play that position, maybe physically, and he's not now. This is I'll be shocked if he's on the 53-man roster. I will be shocked. There's no harm in bringing him in. What's it going to cost you? What's the big deal? The guy is going to work harder than anybody. Here comes an old dude, 33 years old, who's going to come in and outwork your 22-year-old rookies. He'll set an example in off-season workouts. You're not going to pay him anything. It's not going to cost your franchise anything. So what's the big deal? Besides the fact that it's Tim Tebow and people are mad that this guy keeps getting chances. He's not getting this isn't a chance. If he lines up on week 1 for a single play, I'll be shocked. And frankly, if he does, he will have earned it. So, he didn't get promoted to the Mets for, just like Michael Jordan didn't move above AA, playing baseball with the Birmingham Barons. This is a celebrity type of thing. And you can get something out of it for Tim Tebow, because Tim Tebow will come in there and work. It'll be like having another strength coach. He was breaking leg press records at Florida as a freshman quarterback. I mean, he was 20 years old, but he was, as a freshman quarterback, he was breaking leg press records. He's going to go in there, and to me, it's like bringing in another strength coach. So, fine, for a couple of months. Why not? It's off season. His SEC gig he's not playing baseball. His SEC television gig doesn't kick back up for another couple of months. This is something for him to do. You get the feeling he gets bored easy.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we got Ann coming in saying this is a PR stunt to sell tickets. And we had who was it? Somebody
sold out. They don't need to sell tickets.
Yeah,
maybe you get a Jacksonville jersey, but with that says Tebow on it now. They basically already sold out because of Trevor Lawrence and Meyer. That they don't need to sell tickets. This is a new beginning for them. I honestly think can he help the team? Yeah, but not on the field. On the field. He's not gonna be on the field.
And I agree with you there, but I do think that maybe this is me being a little bit too big brain here, but I've always, and I did it in like video games, so maybe this is going way back. I've been influenced here, but I always thought that having a quarterback that was better between the 20s and then having a red zone option is something that you could look at in the NFL. And we've kind of seen that happening recently with the New Orleans Saints. And Sean Payton's one of the best offensive innovators in the NFL, and having a quarterback who can tuck and run like a fullback size body, and when we have less room to work with there, I always thought was a decent option. And we got higher learnings in my brain here saying I feel like Urban Meyer is thinking of using him like a slow Taysom Hill. So
I'll go back to what I originally said. It's 10 years too late.
Yeah,
he's done at that level. You're not going to see the Tim Tebow from Florida, and he's one of the best college football players of all time, without a doubt. I mean, he probably accounted for 300 touchdowns in his time at Florida between rushing. I mean, the man broke Herschel Walker's rushing touchdown record. And, I don't care if they were all from 3 yards. That's impressive. Yeah. But that's not Tim Tebow anymore. When's the last time he strapped on pads and took a hit? Which, on the flip side of that, you might say, well, that might be good for him. His body's in probably the best shape that it's ever been because he's been hitting baseballs instead of taking punishment. Maybe. I'm not buying it. I don't see this as anything other than a motivational speaker. They're bringing in Matt Farley, except Tim Tebow lives in a penthouse instead of a van down by the river.
Matt Foley.
Sorry.
Yeah,
Matt Foley.
So we got Mike 556 coming in here saying Tebow finally gave in. Can't be good. Good mascot, though. Well, that's a good point, Mike. And I think it's a good point. At the very least, I mean, there's negatives, right? Like you talk about bringing him in and setting the culture, but you're also really creating a PR kind of circus, right? Like the media stuff that's going to surround that. And for a new coach coming in there, how entrenched is your culture? Is that going to be a distraction for the players in there? And obviously, Tebow would say, something like, oh, I'm about the team, whatever. But like, it still is going to bring in extra eyeballs and pressure and weird circumstances.
Which can be good because, if we go back to talking about soccer, if there was relegation, Jacksonville wouldn't have a franchise. This is a team, they've had some up and down success, but they're a no market draw. They don't draw well at the stadium. They've been threatened to move several times. So having some extra eyeballs and a distraction. So PR stunt, I get it. Yeah. But I honestly think of it more as like we're bringing in an extra strength coach. who can come in and work out with the guys. And he can help. He can absolutely help with that. You know, he's going to be positive. He's not going to be a negative influence. And if he takes some of the spotlight away that's going to be shining on Trevor Lawrence as a new quarterback, as the number one guy, and all of a sudden people are talking about Tebow and Trevor can progress, can progress on his own without the spotlight of being the generational talent, the number one, then Tebow's mission accomplished.
Yeah.
he's already taken some of the spotlight off Trevor Lawrence and Urban Meyer.
And I wanted to give a shout out again to Mike. Thank you for the $2 super. Hopefully with stuff like that, Chad won't wake up late and be like, oh, I need to set up the stream. He'll be like, oh, we got to make that money. So thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mike, for helping us out there. We got Jeremy coming in here, the Kirk Cousins lookalike with that pearly whites there. Good morning, fellas. Good morning to you, Jeremy. Diamond Rattler. I saw Diamond gave Chad a really cool Broncos handmade gift. Handmade gift. So shout out to you, Diamond. I'm over here in Seattle. No, I'm just kidding. But thank you, man. That's really appreciated. We got Run NASCAR 3D. Am I late? You're just on time, right?
We were
Run NASCAR D is never late. He arrives precisely when he means to. So little Lord of the Rings nerd there for you guys. And Tebow can run the Wildcat. See, I think he's going to play tight end, right? And you can get some usage out of him. But if like Trevor Lawrence, you know, he is rail thin, and I don't want my franchise quarterback doing some of the running stuff that Urban Meyer does historically. So I'm putting Tebow out there sometimes in some looks, like if I have to play him as kind of a sacrificial lamb, because I'm not running quarterback power with Trevor Lawrence.
You're not doing that in the preseason anyway. If he makes the 53-man roster, I'll be shocked. I will be shocked if he makes a 53-man roster. You can have a running back run the Wildcat. You know, you can have I'm sure one of those wide receivers that they have played quarterback in high school. You know, so you know they're not going to run him out. They're not going to run Trevor Lawrence out there to be taking big shots in the preseason anyway.
No.
So, like I said, this is an off-season move. You know, set a good example. Show these guys how to work. Appreciate you. Here's a $50,000 check. And you know he's from Nice. He went to Nice High School in Jacksonville.
Yeah.
Or a suburb of Jacksonville, which is right there. And you know, so he's a legend among Gators. He's a hometown guy. He's not doing anything. Why don't you come work out with us? Have to give you a contract because of, you know, that's what that's what it says. Can't let you on the field without a contract. Here's a contract for the minimum. Come work out with us. All right, I'm not doing anything. And I'll be over there in 20 minutes. You know, it's not a big deal to me. It's not a big deal.
Yeah. And we got Run NASCAR 3D saying, does Tebow have speed or hands? I mean, he's not the fastest guy in the world, but if you compare him to quarterbacks, he ran a 4.71 yard 40, which is in the 70th sixth percentile, which is okay. It's okay. So I'm going to actually tease it down here to tight end. And what would his 40-yard dash be for a tight end? Not bad. 68th percentile. So
and his change of direction was elite. His 6.66. Remember that number. His 6 second L cone is elite. That's corner numbers. So his change of directions was really good. His strength is off the charts. Like I said, he was setting leg press records at Florida as a freshman. So he's super strong. So it always made sense. That's why I said in 2011, go play tight end, kiddo. That's where you belong. It's 10 years too late for him to actually make an impact on the field.
Yep, that's unfortunate. I mean, do you think he'd have been a good linebacker too? Heady guy, pretty physical. But I mean, I could see him filling some gaps
for sure, and a fullback. You know, he would have been. He was basically a lead fullback, except that he was taking the snaps under center instead of dotting the I in an I formation or being the B back in a wishbone. I mean, that's who he was. I mean, he could throw. He could absolutely throw. He threw for 4,000 yards. He set all kinds of records in high school. He just didn't have the NFL throw, but that doesn't take away anything from what he did prior to getting to the NFL. You know, people, you don't do. I kind of say it's like Danny Warfel. You know, Danny Warfel was a phenomenal college quarterback. Don't take anything away from who he was in college because he wasn't an NFL guy. So what? He was a great college quarterback, and that was a ceiling for him, and that's okay.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's a good point there. And I want to pivot this now real quick. You're not as much of you're an NFL historian more than a Broncos historian, but I've seen some comments here saying Tebow, the best quarterback the Broncos have drafted. I know that he won the playoff game and we had that crazy 2011 year, which honestly, the Broncos don't get Peyton Manning if you don't have that year with Tebow. Kind of all roads lead to that 2012 Peyton Manning coming in here. So thank Tebow for that. But if I had to pick from what I've seen, the best Broncos quarterback drafted, it had to be Jay Cutler. I know that he was unpopular a little bit there at the end. And, because he was the guy who got away, they traded him, but he had a pretty good career carved out. It's unfortunate he didn't put in more work into it. I don't think he loved the process as much, but he had unbelievable talent, and he was a franchise quarterback there for a while.
What did the Broncos get for him when they traded him?
I think they got 2 firsts and a third, 2 firsts and a third, and they gave up a 5th. And I think it was 2 firsts and a third. So, I mean, that's talk about value. You
guys should have it ingrained in your head. The phrase I use about Cutler since he was in college, the dumbest smart guy I ever watched.
Yeah.
He just, and that was tough. When your decision making is poor, it's tough to become an elite quarterback. And that's where, but from a tools perspective, he had it all for sure.
Yeah, no, if you grade Drew Lock on the out of 10 scale, he'd probably be like an arm talent and athleticism at like a 7.5 to an 8. Jay Cutler would be like at a 9 to 9.5. That arm popped. It's unfortunate. It really is unfortunate it played out the way it did. But look at that. I was a numbskull at that point. I was probably in middle school. Still am a numbskull, but more so now. Or
definitely years.
Yes, exactly.
I did ages 7 to 17 in the 80s.
Oh,
I know all 80s. Very formative years for me.
But I remember being in that draft, and I was like, okay, if the Broncos are getting a quarterback, I loved Plummer, but like if they're getting a quarterback, the guys to go with are Matt Leinart and Vince Young. Well, those guys in the NFL, I guess Mike Shanahan knew a little bit more than me because Matt Leinart and Vince Young, even though Jay Cutler did not have the career you'd want, much better, much better career. So let's pivot this here. I think this is an interesting topic as well. We're talking about Jay Cutler, Tim Tebow. So Tim Tebow played in the NFL for a long time. And when he came in, a lot of people described him as this project. He wasn't raw, but he was a project. And I kind of want to pivot that. And he never really developed, right? Like the throwing motion was still weird. He wasn't in his time, but he was not raw. He just had bad mechanics. And I'm curious if this can pivot over to Drew Lock as well, because he has some mechanical issues, mainly in the lower body mechanics, the footwork, that people are saying, oh, he's raw, he needs time. Well, another guy who has a lot of SEC starts, some questionable mechanics that might be too ingrained right now to really tear down and build back up. He might be, he'll get better, but he might be what he is from a mechanical process point, especially with the footwork in the base.
You're not changing mechanics at 23 years old. When they're talking about the pro day, when Tim Tebow was having his pro day, they were talking about, oh, he's worked with a throwing guru, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, just throw all that out the window. The personnel people can't be this stupid. If you don't like him now, you're not ever going to like him, because the way you throw, he's been playing since he was, 23. He's been playing quarterback for 15 years. You're going to revert to form under pressure. You might be able to, you can make adjustments to a swing when you're playing baseball. Mm-hmm. You can make, and it's mostly how you start, where it's like, okay, I'm going to widen my stance a little bit, or I'm going to hold my hands a little higher. But basically, once you let those hands go, it goes, you are who you are. And you don't fix mechanics at that level. You are who you are. And to say that he was going to. So if it's I've said before on here, like, I still can't believe Phillip Rivers was ever a quarterback. His mechanics are so bad. You never teach him, oh, watch Phillip Rivers, you need to throw like him. No, but he was effective. So you're not going to fix that throwing motion. Do you like what you've got or not? If no, then you got to pass. So now, can you get better with decision making? Yes. Can you get better with your reads? Yes. Can you get more comfortable? All that stuff, yes. Mechanics at this level, you are who you are. It's not going to change.
Yeah, I think it can be harnessed a little bit, but maybe that's a little bit of a conversation also with Justin Fields. Not the best throwing motion, and versus somebody. It's not bad. It's a little bit elongated. I thought it was a little elongated, and he's had a lot of reps versus somebody like Trey Lance, who is more of a ball of clay. And if there is some sort of mechanical issue, he might be easier to coach out of him.
He had a throw one time where I was watching. I'm like, he played baseball. I could, that he had, and I looked it up. It was like, oh yeah, high level baseball. I'm like, yeah, I could tell just with a certain throw he had that he was a baseball player, because, they teach you to get long. You want to be, when you're pitching, and all these guys are quarterbacks pitch, you want to be as long as possible. You don't want to throw it from here. I had a kid playing for me, his dad saying he's throwing it from here. I'm like, he's playing flag football all summer. I'm like, he's throwing it like a quarterback. He's throwing it out of his ear hole.
Mhm.
So it's different. You say, when you're pitching, I don't care how long your release is. Get as long as you possibly can. As long as that thing's coming out of there hot and with accuracy, that's all that matters.
The
But
longer the reach,
you're
the
not
closer to the plate.
you're not fixing mechanics. You're not.
Yeah.
You're not fixing someone's mechanics at this level. You can make small little tweaks, but Tim Tebow wasn't raw. He had a big old loopy release.
Yeah.
And as soon as he was on the run under any kind of a pressure, that release got full windmill.
Yep.
So and that you're going back to your instincts. You're going back to, like I said, you are who you are at that point. And you might be able to fake it for, I'm going to throw it out of my ear hole 10 times in a controlled setting. But once the whistle blows, it's going back to the norm.
Yep. And that's something one of my favorite football analysts, draft analyst, Ben Solak, talked about the Trey Lance plan for any team that takes him, where you don't want him to be too early. Like, oh, can you play a quarterback too early? Well, yes and no. But the big thing is you want to give them the path to succeed, the decision making. And if you put a guy like that out there too early, then they're going to revert into some of those bad habits and rely on those and learn that those work. So instead of getting to that second read, third read, reading the defense, he's going to tuck and run. And you don't want him to do that. So there is something there about how you are establishing mechanics and just patterns of behavior in general. So let's say hello to a little bit of people coming in here. Ernie Mays, one of our big supporters here, always coming in and chiming in over on Facebook. Hello, Nick and Scott. Go Broncos country. Hello to you, Ernie. Good morning. We got Malcolm Brown, still in Ogden, Kansas. Hello to your grandchildren, Malcolm, and a home of the Wildcats and my wild grandchildren. And then we got Steven Baumgartner coming in here over in Nebraska saying, hey, guys, Drew Lock is my quarterback, dropping the $5 super. Really do appreciate you for that. Steven always coming in and showing us support. We got George saying he's with Steven too. So, I mean, best case scenario, guys, that's Drew Lock is the guy. So we'll see. We're fixing to find out, as they say. We got Gary Leeds coming in here, maybe with the Stars. I need to figure out the producer side of things here. So that way we can see. But either way, Gary, thank you very much. And Mike coming on over on YouTube with the Mike Givens with the $5 super. We appreciate you a heck of a lot, keeping the lights on in here. So that's going to be great. And Mike coming in again 2 times today, double dipping for breakfast, a double shot of espresso, if you will. Mike 5.56 with $5 super. I agree with Steven. Drew had everything stacked against him last year. He's going extra hard this offseason. I dread seeing Teddy. Well, Mike, I think based on what I've gathered, I think the plan is to have a quarterback battle with Drew Lock and Teddy Bridgewater. And if it's at all close, it's going to be Drew Lock. They would rather go with Drew Lock, the younger guy, the more perceived trajectory upside. But if Drew Lock doesn't take care of the football, it's going to be Teddy. That's the biggest thing. This is a defensive-oriented team. It's a team that is built to take the air out of the ball, so to speak. I mean, you got 2 great running backs. Mike Munchak coached offensive line. And again, the defensive personnel is as good on this team since 2016. I mean, people say 2015, but that 2016 defense was pretty good. I mean, they won 9 games or 7, 8 games with Trevor Siemian. I mean, good God. Like, that's a good defensive team. So we'll see what happens, but it's going to come down to turnovers. So we'll see, unless they bring in Aaron Rodgers.
And going back to your comment about can you play a quarterback too early, for me, that's all about the offensive line.
Yeah.
It's not even necessarily the turnovers, but are you going to get him, are you going to get him the hell beat out of him? Because then you're gun shy, then you don't want a quarterback there who's nervous.
Yeah.
Who's afraid. It's gun shy is not the word I'm looking for, but there's something where they're antsy. They're jumping in the pocket because they've gotten crushed. But if you can protect him, you can live with the wins and losses. You can live with the turnovers as long as he's not getting just beat up. So if your offensive line is okay, you can play a quarterback early.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a good point. And I really dislike the cliche that a young quarterback's best friend is a running back. No, it's the offensive line. Keep them upright.
It's COL. They don't. The quarterback doesn't buy Rolexes for the running backs. He treats the 5 guys in front of him to steak dinners. Once a week. Those are his best friends. A running game. Yeah. Yeah. But that's still, to me, that's dependent on your offensive line. So
100%.
It's your OL. They're best. Those 1,500, 1,600 pounds in front of him. Those are his best friends.
Yep, I'm with you 100% there. And if I could do a Broncos hindsight redraft, I'm really happy about Javonte Williams coming in here, but Tevin Jenkins going a few picks later after the Juwan James injury, I'd feel a little bit better about this team. But either way, I'm happy to have Javonte Williams. They'll figure it out. The old ball coach, Mike Munchak, has done more with less before. So is what it is.
So can we pivot a little bit about Jake Plummer talking about we mentioned
Yes.
Jake Plummer, we mentioned Drew Lock, and Jake had some comments about Drew Lock, and my question wasn't, and Zach got into this a little bit last night on the Mile High podcast, isn't necessarily yes, you should back your quarterback, however you want to think about that, but it's when people start defining fans that I start to bristle a little bit. If you're a real Broncos fan, I've been here longer than you, dude, and I'll be here a lot longer when you're gone. And these guys, it's a job to them. It's for Drew Lock, it's a job. For George Payton, it's a job. For all these guys, it's a job. They're gonna be playing for somewhere else. I promise you. This is our lives. This is, as a supporter, we're Broncos. We're fans for life. Yep. And don't tell me what I can and can't do as a fan. That's not your business. Now, me as a fan, if you are showing good effort and good attitude, just like my kids that I coach, I got your back. That's not gonna keep me from saying that he's not good enough. If a player's not good enough, then he's not good enough. We need to upgrade this position. This is something we need to address in the draft. This is something we need to address in free agency. I won't get all over a player if he's showing good, I won't down him. I won't dog a player if he's showing good effort and attitude. If they've got bad attitude and bad effort, I don't care if they're having success. D'Angelo Hall is the only Falcon I absolutely rooted against in my entire life. And I've seen some bad football because he had a horrible attitude. His teammates hated him. And, I would dog him on the team, but it didn't have anything to do with success. But you could say, we've been through our ups and downs, and all fans have. That it's not up to Jake Plummer to tell me what makes me a good Broncos fan or a good fan of anybody, just because I don't necessarily think a quarterback is good enough or a position is good enough. That's my right as a fan. Sorry.
Yep, you are 100% right, and that's gatekeeping. Gatekeeping fans are the most annoying. Sometimes you'll see it with male fans, with females. Well, name the quarterback in 1995. You don't have to name the quarterback in 1995 to be a fan. Are you kidding me? There are different ways to fan. If you're putting any sort of emotional investment, financial investment, time investment in a team, you can fan however the heck you want. Now, there are obviously some lines you shouldn't cross, like harassing the players, et cetera, et cetera. Like there are lines to not cross, but as far as I'm concerned, the only gatekeeping that should be done is keeping out gatekeepers themselves, right? So if you can fan however you want, you just need to have a little bit of, nuance and perspective and understand that things change, and we all want the same thing, right? We want this Broncos team to be as good as possible. I guess you're seeing it more in the NBA than you are in the NFL, but there are some fans who are more player fans than team fans. And I guess we saw it with Tebow as well, talking back to our original conversation here. That's a little bit of a different conversation, but if we can come to the table and agreeing that we want the best thing for this team, the Broncos, and even if we have different opinions on how to get there, that's the basis of it all. And that should be fine.
That's okay. Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. So I always call them, doing the college stuff, I called those guys the defenders of the program. It's like, they answer everything with, trust the coaches. Well, and that was like, well, they know more than you. Well, yeah, they do. That doesn't mean they're going to be right. You show me the coach. When these guys get fired in 3 years, because they basically all do, and we're dogging them.
I'm a Hawkeye fan. We've only had 2 coaches since like the 80s.
Yeah, you don't count. You don't count. We're Steelers. Steelers fans. You guys can take a hike too.
That black and gold.
But most teams are switching over coaches 5 years at best. And the guy before him was an idiot, because nobody changes jobs. You don't upgrade like you do in college. Yeah. You don't say, we're going to go after Mike Tomlin to be the next Dallas Cowboys coach because he's a really good coach. That doesn't happen. So I call them defenders that trust the coaches. I trust the coaches to do what they think is right. I don't trust the coaches to be right, because that's not trust. That's blind faith. And I don't have it.
You're preaching to the choir here. I think there's a difference between having hope and having faith, and also analyzing things with the information that you're presented. Me, as somebody who supports the Broncos, best case scenario, Drew Lock takes almost an unprecedented leap, becomes a top 10 quarterback, and the Broncos have their franchise quarterback with a team that's ready to go. I mean, other than the quarterback position right now, as Drew Lock was last year, this team is built to contend with almost anybody outside the quarterback position. So that would that would change things. In best case scenario, Drew Lock is that guy. But I'm not going to sit here and, pump smoke or not question things and be a hater. I'm going to tell you what I see and what I think. And because I'm looking to be the best analyst possible and, give you guys the facts. And if you're looking for somebody to, a fan club to blow smoke up you and say like, oh, Javonte Williams is going to be the next, Emmitt Smith, Garrett Bowles is next Orlando Pace, Patrick Surtain, the next Champ Bailey. I'm sorry, guys. You're barking up the wrong tree. I'm not going to be that guy for you. I'm going to tell it to you like it is. Sometimes I'm going to be wrong, but as Scott would say, let me first prove that I'm wrong before you dog me first. Exactly. So let's get to Malcolm.
And Malcolm, appreciate you coming in.
Yes. Yeah, Malcolm, do the Broncos have more non-contact injuries than other teams? And I'm just going to get into this with you, Malcolm. No, the answer is no. They would have about a regular norm amount of non-contact injuries. I think injuries tend, outside of the Chargers franchise, tend to normalize year to year. They're just kind of random events. Now, if you do have a bunch of soft tissue injuries, you can point to the strength and conditioning coach, but stuff with like Achilles, ACLs, whatever, those are just unfortunate acts that can happen to anybody. You'd hope this year that the Broncos would have better injury luck, but it's kind of like the gambler's fallacy, right? Like overall, they should regress to the mean, but every single year the odds reset, the deck reshuffles. You have a chance of rolling a 1 or a 6 every time you roll the die. So we'll see, but hopefully the Broncos won't have the injuries like they had last year, because that really did hold this team back. And I mean, losing your number 1 defensive player in Von Miller before the season even starts, and getting about half of a game of your best offensive player in Cortland Sutton, you're not going to win many football games that way. Quarterback be damned. I mean, if you're losing your best players, you're going to have a hard time.
Yeah, and I'm just reading through some of the comments on here. It's like Higher Learning says, I think ACL tears can be prevented. If you figure out how,
yeah, please.
You'll be a gazillionaire. Because the single scariest play you'll see when you're watching a game and someone's down, they go back and show a replay when nobody touched them.
Yeah.
The non-contact, when they go down, something on their body just went. And that's the scariest one. And you're hoping it's a hamstring, or you're hoping it's a muscle injury. Because if they go down when nobody touched them, something bad is happening. Unless it's soccer, That
Speaking of Chelsea,
those are the scariest ones. You could just be running along, and warm up, something goes. So if there's a way to prevent them, obviously, I wouldn't say prevent, by being in absolute peak condition, and flexibility and hydration and all that stuff plays into it. Yeah. But those are fairly common. But I don't think there's any way to prevent the non-contact injuries that happens. And frankly, these guys are such finely tuned machines now with the muscle mass that they have on, that you see more of them. It's not the guys that are smoking cigarettes at halftime like it was in the 50s. They weren't pulling muscles all the time because they didn't have nearly the muscles.
Yeah. Speaking of Jay Cutler, smoking Jay Cutler out here, but we got Jeremy Sean coming in here with a good comment here. Saying I don't love the hardline stances in Broncos country, and I think that's an issue beyond Broncos country. That's not a Broncos country issue. That is a humans on the internet issue. The truth is, Drew has had the deck stacked against him. Teddy has a higher floor but lower ceiling than Drew. Both are moot if we land Aaron Rodgers. And I like a lot of this here going on, Jeremy. I will push back a little bit because that's what we're here for. But the big thing is Drew Lock having the deck stacked against him. Buddy, that's the NFL. Right? This is a salary cap league. He's not in here playing for Alabama going up against, Southern Children of the Corn State for the blind, Division II football, and just blowing teams out of the water. You're going to have to deal with adversity, right? Every single team has to deal with adversity. Good players deal with adversity, and how you respond to that adversity, if you can overcome that adversity. Now, those are the guys you want to look for. Drew Lock didn't do it last year. He's going to get another chance in the league. He's too talented, right? There's too much tools here. There's not enough good throwers of the football in the NFL where somebody's going to give Drew Lock a shot, even if it isn't the Broncos. Let's say they get Aaron Rodgers and they move Lock. Lock will land somewhere and get another chance. But as far as it being stacked against him, I have a hard time having too much sympathy because Broncos had pretty good personnel around him last year. They've been investing a heck of a lot of capital, offensive line, wide receivers, running backs. And there are some players that do not get that level of investment around them so that way they can succeed. So while the injuries did happen, you had the sick little bug last year, new offensive coordinator, et cetera, et cetera. These are things that are not just singular to Drew Lock. These are things that most NFL players and quarterbacks have to deal with. And if you can't overcome it, you're just going to be a name that's passed by. That's just the reality of it.
So some good comments here. Malcolm has another one in here talking about opposing muscle groups need to be developed equally. For example, players that do a lot of squats need to do lots of hamstring curls. And what happens after a serious injury is the other muscles atrophy. Mm-hmm. And so you see follow-up injuries when someone's coming off of an ACL or an Achilles. Then you see hamstring pulls and groin pulls and that type of stuff. And that's what makes it so hard to recover from it. It's because, like you're saying, it's the other muscle groups that start falling away then too. Topic I saw on from one of your fellow publishers with the Packers, Bill Huber, PackerCentral.com, was talking about what it's going to cost Aaron Rodgers to not be in camp. And you may know this better than I do, but they used to you get paid 16 or 17 times a year. That was it. Game week checks. I think they've stretched that out a little bit more, but his Aaron Rodgers' base salary is basically it's close to $1 million a week during the season.
Same.
So if he's sitting out, the fines were for missing training camp is $50,000 a day. Which when you start breaking it down like by day and by the hour, $20 million is a lot of money. We've kind of forgotten about how much money that actually is because we hear, oh yeah, he's making 10 million, 15 million. That's not that much in the great. It's like, but on a 365-day calendar, he's making $40,000 a day. So at $800,000 a week for a game check, he can afford. He got a $50 million signing bonus, I think, somewhere in that neighborhood. But Bill also talks about what we've talked about is him just possibly walking away and retiring. He's got to pay back post part of that bonus. He's not coming up with $11 million and paying the Packers to quit. No way. There's no way that's going to happen. So he'll be on a roster somewhere for sure. And it might cost him an extra $500,000 during the offseason if he doesn't show up at camp.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. And I mean, is he going to be hurting for money? I don't know. But we got Charlie coming in here saying if they stop dropping so many balls, then he'll have some talent around him. Well, that's definitely concerning. And the drops from Jerry Jeudy do stand out. But the Broncos last year had 27 dropped passes. 27. Here are the teams above them with more drop passes. The Bills, 36. The Dallas Cowboys, 36. The Dolphins, 36. The Patriots, 34. The Panthers, 33. The Bears, 32. The Steelers, 32. The Bengals, 31. The Browns, 31. The Saints, 29. The Jets, 29. The Eagles, 29. The Jaguars, 28. The Chiefs, 28. The 49ers, 28. So while the Broncos did have drop passes last year, they were pretty close to the league average. So I think that it's not a valid criticism. If you want to criticize Jerry Jeudy specifically, I think that is fair. He's something he does have to improve upon. But actually from a team standpoint, the Broncos were darn near league average in drop passes. So I don't know where that narrative's coming from other than somebody threw it out there and it kind of just stuck.
Well, and I'll tell you, if we're talking about numbers that are mind-blowing, because like you're saying, sometimes we watch things in a vacuum. And, when you watch a game and you're like, oh, that drop pass, we would have won. Well, they dropped 3 passes. So those are the kind of things you focus on your team. What could have gone a little differently? If it had gone a little bit differently, we usually only see that stuff in a vacuum. But the number to me that just blew my mind is looking through Mile High Huddle, and Thomas Hall had an article that says 2 areas Broncos have improved independent of QB position in 2021, and it goes into the turnovers created category for the Denver Broncos, and it said 5. Is that right? 5 turnovers in a 16-game season is statistically almost impossible. Yeah. So that number's got to improve just through osmosis. That number's going to get better. So if you're talking about you move that number to 20, all of a sudden you get another turnover a game. Those are game changers. Literally. Those are literally game changers. That's a statistical anomaly to have 5 takeovers, forced turnovers. That number is crazy to me. So when you talk about the numbers that are stacked against you, injuries, that's one of them. I mean, there's dropped, an exchange delivery 5 times a year from quarterback to running back that you might fall on. A missed snap 5 times a year, for goodness sake. So that was a number to me that it was just mind blowing. So that number is going to get better. You might get the ball an extra time a year this year. You should.
Yeah, and I'm looking it up right now on ESPN, And it said the Broncos had 16 takeaways. So I don't know where the 5 is
so
coming
what's the
from.
5 coming from?
I don't know. We're gonna have to bother Thomas.
Let me creating turnovers. Bottom 5. That's what
Bottom
it was.
5. Okay. Yes, they were bottom 5.
Bottom 5 of the NFL. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm like, no, that's like I said, that seems statistically impossible. Ranking in the bottom 5. So that should still get better. You know, with Von Miller coming back, Patrick Surtain there, that number is going to improve for sure.
Yeah, and part of turnovers, it's kind of like sacks, right? Like it really does depend on your offensive production. That's a big thing. If you have a team that's down by 2 scores halfway or close to the start of the fourth quarter, that team's going to be more aggressive. The quarterback's going to make some decisions that otherwise they wouldn't. They're going to have to be more aggressive to try to get back. And when stuff like that happens, that's when you get your sacks. That's when you get your turnovers, because the other team has to take those lower probability, higher risk chances to try to change the game. So didn't have that.
So in someone, you may have even asked me before, are there any rules you'd change in baseball? And for me, it wouldn't necessarily be rules, but scoring changes. I believe in the forced error. You know, if I've got Ronald Acuna, someone that can fly down to first base and hits a grounder to shortstop, there's more likely going to be an error than the catcher hitting. But if there's an error, it counts as it doesn't count on your on base percentage. So he gets on, but it doesn't count good towards your on base percentage. Well, that doesn't make sense to me. So what you're saying is by the offense putting pressure on them, you're forcing more errors. You're forcing more turnovers simply because the other side of your game is good. And I agree with that. So it's also another part of that is if you got a really good defense and you've got an offense that's turning the ball over, that defense loses heart. They start to wear out. You know, they're like, Jesus Christ, we just got these guys off the field. And you'll notice that after a turnover, the scoring percentage is higher because they're not quite mentally ready to go back out on the field. And so, plus the scoring, the field position and all that. But there's with the parity in this league, the mental aspects of this game are huge. And that's a big part of it, taking care of the ball and being able to move the ball and give your defense a break.
Yep. And you leading into it last year, the Broncos had 32 total giveaways, led the NFL that way. They also had 23 interceptions, which was 3 more than the second place team in the Eagles, and 9 fumbles. Melvin Gordon has his fair share of things that he needs to look at as well. So, it is what it is. Hopefully they'll get better there. And that sounds like it's a big, big sticking point for the coaching staff this year. Protect the football. You can't, like we were going through, I think a few weeks ago, going through the Broncos, just raw defensive stats. Like the defense has been good, but not that good. Well, if you just look at the yards given up, the points, et cetera, doesn't look that good. However, this defense was constantly put in a bad position because the offense was turning over the ball like crazy. I mean, just left and right turning the ball over. And I think the Broncos defense also had the worst average starting field position in the NFL as well. Goes hand in hand with the turnovers, but it's a big issue. You can't blame the punting game. Sam Martin was a good punter last year. Actually, we're getting into the punting stuff now. We're getting really deep in the weeds. But it's the turnovers. And if they clean that up, even just get to average, they don't have to be the best. If they can get to average rather than the worst in the NFL, this team can improve by 2 or 3 games. I mean, outside of points scored, which obvious, like duh, but outside of points scored, I don't think there is a statistic that is more indicative on the outcome of the game than turnovers and turnover differential. Protect the ball,
plus minus on turnovers for sure. It's definitely more than time of possession. You know, that one can tell 2 different stories depending on how the game goes. I scored 4 times in 2-minute drives. I only had it 8 minutes. You had it the other 22, but it's 28-0.
No, I think we've seen it like the greatest show on turf, but whatever. Right now, like the Chiefs don't win the time of possession very often, but that's because they're scoring 40+ yard touchdowns. And if you can score it's much easier. It's not much easier, but it gets harder to score when you get closer to the red zone. And the Broncos defense has actually been pretty good at that, the red zone defense. So what do the Chiefs do? They say, well, we know the field gets less. Why are we trying to score touchdowns when we're, first and goal? Let's score touchdowns from the 50, right? Like we have much more space. We got space, guys. Let's air it out. So that's good there. We got Air Mason 14 coming in here with the close-up picture over on YouTube with a $2 super. Thank you very much, Air Mason. And he said Locke had the worst completion percentage to his wide receivers. I don't have that stats in front of me, but he did struggle getting to his wide receivers. Now, to be fair, the Broncos had 2 separators they drafted last year in Jerry Jeudy and KJ Hamler. Tim Patrick was more of the general vicinity accuracy guy, and they lost their best guy in Cortland Sutton, who plays above the rim almost as good as anyone in the NFL. So Locke did have that going against him. He missed Sutton a lot. His wide receiver percentage, completion percentage would have been much better if he had Cortland Sutton. Let's make no bones about it. But this is something to watch for. It's not like Alex Smith, where he didn't throw a single touchdown to a wide receiver in whatever that 2014 season, or crazy. But they're going to have to work on the rapport, get it better. And if Locke is the starter this year, I do expect them to improve, but something to watch for. So thank you for the super Air Mason, and a good point.
Yep. Just going through some of these here. Karaoke Chris, that's someone spent a lot of time. When you've got 24 hours of programming to fill on NFL Network or Pro Football Focus, says they watched every snap Locke has played and rated 28% of his passes as uncatchable. Again, that's a stat in a vacuum. You know, how many of those were under duress? How many of them were errors from the receivers? Because it takes two to tango, literally, in this case. But that's a concern. Finishing up on the point we're making about the synergy and stuff, and how there's stats, lies, and statistics. You could have a really good passing offense because you're always behind.
Mm-hmm.
Your running game stinks. Well, we were behind 21-3 after 7 minutes. We had to pass the ball. So again, you have to look at this, and you have to add context to everything you see. And if I just see a number, I need to know more.
Mm-hmm.
I like I'm a mathematics guy. I'm a Moneyball guy. I like all that, but I don't it's trust but verify for me. What is causing this? Here's the data. Now, why is it happening? Because there's going to be a lot of factors that go into that.
Yeah, and just my scientific brain goes into it. I've written more than one analysis out there. So you have your introduction, your methods, your results, and then you have your discussion. And the results right now are talking about a stat in a vacuum, but the discussion really gets into the interpretation, why this is happening, and then obviously the conclusion at the end. But, if you can have data out there, and it's good, but it's only as good as the person who is cobbling it together to create the actual narrative of what's happening and the interpretation of the data. So pivoting here to Kenny Booker, one of the staff writers over at Mile High Huddle. Make sure you guys go check out all of our work over at milehighhuddle.com and over on Twitter at Mile High Huddle. And Kenny, it disappeared. Kenny asked us, what position did we play when we did play growing up? Kenny, I played tight end and defensive end. So I had the long reach. Huge. And unfortunately, tight end was I wasn't as big as some of the boys on the offensive line, so I didn't get to offensive tackle or whatever. But I mean, we were essentially, it was high school offense. Got some routes out there, but mostly an extension of the offensive line.
I started playing soccer at 5 years old and played year round until I was about 35 years old. So I played 1 year of organized football because I was friends with all of the guys on the football team, and I knew more about football than they did because I was a football encyclopedia, and I was 6'1" and could fly. They came out. So they brought me out my senior year in high school. I played receiver until I started screwing around and kicking a ball after practice. And then the receivers coach was also the special teams coach. He made me kicker, and I said, I didn't come out here to kick. I'll kick, but I'm not doing it at practice. So then I went and played safety with the defensive backs coach, who was also the track coach, who wanted me to come run track for him. So I got some time at safety until Saturday morning after a football game. I tore my knee up playing soccer and got yelled at by my offensive line coach, who was my homeroom teacher, for playing soccer during football season. I'm like, wait, I'm playing football during soccer season. So I played 1 year of organized football. All of my highlights are in practice, and but I was a football encyclopedia and have always been. Just love the game. It's the greatest team game going, and I've just always loved it.
And we got another personal question here. I'll kick this to you too, Scott. But what's your 40, Nick? The only time I ever ran an official 40 was at a Broncos-Colts game. Was that Broncos game where Aqib Talib poked Dwayne Allen's eye. I actually ran into a Dwayne Allen at a bar after that game was over. He was okay. Got a picture with him. It was a good time. We had a few drinks, actually. So what was your 40, Nick? I think I ran, and I was in jeans and a coat, but I ran a 4.2. Oh my God, I'm playing the NFL. No, a 5.29. I can't remember. Guys, at football time, especially in Iowa City, sometimes you enjoy a few adult beverages before the game starts. So I ran a 40 in jeans and a coat, and it was okay. But I definitely didn't train for it, and not the proper gear. And I had a buddy with me, and he actually ran a 5.01 twice. He was so freaking upset because he wanted to break that 4 and at 5:01. Oh, too close.
I was a 4.7 guy because I didn't know how to run. I didn't know how to run.
Good,
I could I was the second fastest guy because playing soccer I didn't do anything from a stop. So I'm in a 2-point stance running the 40. I had no idea.
Yeah.
If top speed, there was only one guy in our school faster than me, and he still holds a record for the 100 meters at the school that's now 30 years old. So I was like, there's one guy that's faster than me, but he was a lot faster than me. He was a 10.6, 10.500 meters guy. I was let's throw the ball out there and see who goes and gets it first, and I was going to win against anybody except him. So I couldn't run 40s. We actually had a local trainer come, and they did your 40 time from a stop, and then a 40 time where you got to start 10 yards behind, and it measured your speed, full speed for 40 yards. And they said, if the difference is like 0.7 or more, we can help you. And mine was like a difference of like 1.2.
Yeah. We got Jeremy coming back in here saying, it's interesting. I find myself defending Locke on this show and being accused of hating him on Huddle Up. Well, Jeremy, if you have both sides pointing at you, telling you that you are the antithesis or the antagonist, then you're in a good spot. I would say that I've gotten it both ways as well. I just try to keep it real, right? Like if you're coming to this show or whatever show to have people, drear up fan specific narratives or smoke like that, that's not, I'll never be that guy. I'm sorry. I can't. I'll tell you how I feel, and I'll try to take, talking about feel, but I'll tell you how I feel with taking the emotions out of it. So it's just is what it is, and we'll see how it plays out. It
seems to me like you're pretty balanced then, Jeremy.
Yes.
If both sides hate you, then you're doing something right. That's usually how it works. Yep. Unless you're just a provocateur, unless you're just out there trying to stir up trouble, then I kind of said everybody kind of hates me equally when I was rating draft picks. So I'm like, I must be doing a good job.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So this is what it is. And we got higher learnings. I can hardly even comment on Huddle Up without someone hating on me. Well, you know what? That's just the nature of social media in general, right? People are really tough behind the keyboards, and I do my best to block out that
friendlier crowd here at Broncos for breakfast. It's too early for hate. We're all about the love. We want the love.
It's never too early for
in the morning. Instead of coming down and you got your caffeine hangover coming at 6 o'clock in the evening. When your caffeine is away and you haven't eaten yet before dinner. Yeah. People are angry. It's almost like being in Florida. I said all the divorces. Everybody I know in Florida has gotten divorced. Everybody. I grew up. I never even saw divorces in Georgia, and my family's in Ohio. So the heat makes people angry, and everybody's running around half naked anyway. So with their tank tops and swimsuits, it's the heat. So for us, we're all about the love at Broncos for breakfast.
Yeah, and Peter is just a nice guy. He's saying it's not too early. Too early there. It's evening here. It's exactly 6 o'clock over in Turkey. So, Peter, thank you for joining us, and hopefully this we always enjoy your comments, Peter. You're a great member of this community. So we appreciate you and prioritizing us. I always think I get a kick out of it when we're doing the nighttime shows, and Peter joins in. It's like it's 3 a.m. here. It's like, oh my God, Peter, what's going on? Are you
okay? Sleep, man. So I got third shift. I got shirt. Well, I'm glad we can help you through it. Otherwise, if I'm up at 3, it's because I'm getting up to go pee for the second time.
Yep. And we're wrapping up here. So unless any supers come in, I'll have to pull out the air horn to get in some buzzer beaters. But over coming in here, and you told us how to pronounce your name. I think I pronounced it wrong, so let us know in the comments. You've been active today, so I need to get that right because you're becoming quickly becoming a great member of this Broncos for Breakfast community here over in Israel. A question. Who is a Darkhorse 2021-2020 draft pick that will be a starter or have a major impact going forward? Excuse me. Well, let me see. Going over this roster right now, kind of a dark horse. I'm going to go with Kerry Vincent Jr. There was apparently some attitude questions, but he was a decently highly rated player over at Louisiana State. And slot defenders, nickel cornerbacks, the smaller guys, they tend to be devalued in the NFL draft or in contracts in general, but you can find good starters, day 3 of the NFL draft. And I think that's what you're going to get with Kerry Vincent Jr. I think you might not see him this year, but I think he's got a real chance to end up being that starting cornerback. And I think he is degrees of freedom, more talented, better football player, more athletic than Asang Bassi, who played the undrafted free agent last year for the Broncos. So I think Kerry Vincent Jr. is a dark horse that could end up being a a starter because in today's NFL, you need 5 defensive backs listed as starters. I don't need to hear the nose tackle or that third linebacker anymore when they announce the linebackers. Sorry.
If I go a draft pick to talent ratio, it's Seth Williams, without a doubt. He's a 6th round guy with 1st round talent, literally. So if he puts it together, he's absolutely a dark horse because he's got huge upside and potential. It never fully clicked for him at Auburn for one reason or another, and part of that's offensive run and the quarterbacks they got. But he is a huge talent. So I'm gonna go Seth Williams, wide receiver. Ophir, appreciate it.
Yeah, and it's Ophir. Yes, got to remember that one. And also talking about like having differing opinions. It's not like we're talking about like something really difficult out here. It's football. You can have different opinions on football. But however, if I do push on you or I say something and you push on me, you better be able to back it up, right? Like you kind of want to dig in there and dive into it. You don't just want to throw out like, BS out there. But if you can have different opinions based in reality, you can get into it and have a good time discussing it. It's like your friends at the bar, like talking about who's the best ever. I might go to bat actually for the best quarterback ever being Peyton Manning. I'm sorry, if you put him on those Patriots teams in the 2000s with those perennial top 5 defenses, we might be talking a different outcome, but is what it is. So me and Nick from Diamond Rattler, me and Nick argue all the time. It's all in good fun. Don't take it too serious. And that's the big thing too. Don't take yourself too serious, right? Like we're just out here having fun and filling in some talk and narrative from 9 to 5 every day, and eventually we're all going to die. So just try to enjoy yourself. Take the Kyle Shanahan route there.
Jeez, I don't need to be reminded of that.
I need some more coffee, I think.
I'm actually faking it. I got this full of water because I already have my coffee. Too much coffee in the morning, and I'm really uncomfortable. But I want everybody to watch this. I want you to watch this on TV. The props in TV and movies, the coffee is always empty, and it bothers me. Pay attention. They'll deliver a cup. They'll have a top on it, and you can tell by the way it moves. It's always empty. Fill it up with water or something. It's not that hard.
Yeah, and we got Karaoke Chris coming in here. Who do you think will end up at right tackle? I don't think that person is on the Broncos roster right now. It probably would, best case scenario, would be Calvin Anderson. I know that he is very active on social media, and if you say something about him, he will find it and comment on it or like it. But it's for good or for better or for worse. But I think the guy who ends up being the Broncos right tackle isn't currently on the roster. That's my opinion. I think
mid-June, right? Mid-June.
Yep. And a lot of those guys are veterans, and they don't even want to be there for OTAs anyway, right? It's like, come in for a physical. We'll see what's going on. I'm not going to sign that contract until a little bit later just because I don't need to go through I've been through the ringer before. So I think, did Eric Fisher just sign with the Colts yesterday, or he was getting close? Did that happen?
I don't know. I didn't see it. I was sorry. I was actually reading. Like I said, sometimes when you start talking about Broncos starters at right tackle, I start reading the comments.
Yeah. And we got Diamond Rattler coming in here saying Baron Browning, Broncos country needs to watch him. That's a dark horse. Well, Baron Browning was in my top 40 prospects, so I have a hard time putting him in as a dark horse myself. That's why I went with Kerry Vincent Jr., but Baron Browning was my favorite Broncos pick based on the slot in the entire class, maybe even in the entire draft. I loved Baron Browning, and I'm not sure if he's going to be a Will. I'm not sure if he's going to be a Sam, kind of that 2-point guy, but they're going to have this year to kind of move him around, figure out where he works best, but he's got length. He's got athleticism, twitch. Not sure about the bend, but he is a fun player. They're going to figure out a way to use him. Worst case scenario, last pick of the 3rd round, he's going to be a dynamic special teams player, but I think you're going to get better than that.
Yeah, there was a lot to like in this draft. And I saw one of the comments, when I started talking a little bit about, trust the coaches, trust the GM. Like I said, I trust them to do what they think is right. I don't trust them to be right. And that's okay. It's like, well, I trust George Payton because, he's really good. He's still going to make mistakes. And would you bet your life that Justin Fields wasn't the right pick there? And that's what we're here to discuss. I'm not going to say he was wrong. I like the Surtain pick. That's who I said at the very first time we did this show was Patrick Surtain to the Broncos at 9. But there's nobody gets them all right. Nobody. So, and that's what we're here for. It's not to talk about options, what could happen, what might happen. So I just wanted to make sure I was clarifying on that. I'm not here saying that, I know more. I'm saying that they just don't know it all.
Yep. And we see it let's just look at history. teams make bad decisions all the time. I mean, the Broncos paying Juwan James, bad decision. We have hindsight now to say that, but these guys are not infallible in any way. They're not immaculate. They make mistakes. We're going to make mistakes. You can't predict the future. You just can go based on your experiences in life and the information that you have on hand to make the most educated decision possible. And that's all you can ask for. So guys, I think that's probably going to wrap it up here today for Broncos for Breakfast. We appreciate everybody who participated in the chat at all, but also we want to give a shout out to everybody who was kind enough to drop a super chat in here for us today to keep the lights on, to make sure that Chad creates the live stream link before we're supposed to go live. But I want to give a shout out to Stephen Baumgartner, Mike Givens, Mike 5.56, who came in twice today, Malcolm Brown, who I think also came in twice down in Ogden, Kansas, and Air Mason. So everybody who contributed super chats today, helping keep the lights on, helping keep this show viable. We appreciate the heck out of you guys. Man, it's mind blowing that we can be here every morning, talk football, and you guys can join us and we can just do something like this. I mean, we're really just a couple of guys shooting the breeze, talking some football, and it's a great time. And we got Kalen saying good show today. We got Peter saying I'll get some stars on here on Thursday. Well, Peter, obviously, and we appreciate the super chats, but by no means do you guys have to super or stars or anything to contribute to the chat. We love everybody in here and we appreciate you guys just joining us in general. Jason O'Neill saying well done. Karaoke Chris saying thanks guys, go Broncos. Higher Learning saying thanks Nick and Scott, have a great day. Charlie Beagle saying we're all going to die. Thank you, Charlie. I think Charlie needs some more coffee. I do too. George
don't remember those things in elementary school that you thought were going to be the end of your world, and then like as you grow up, you're like, yeah, that didn't matter at all. Yeah. It's kind of how I try and go through life. In a year, I'm not going to care about what I cared about yesterday.
Be sure to like the show before you die. Thank you very much. God, we're getting really nihilistic. I might have to go put on some Rick and Morty while I'm getting my stuff together this morning. But guys, that's going to do it for Broncos for Breakfast. Make sure you follow the mothership at Mile High Huddle, where all of our content is all the time. Oh, if you guys are joining us on YouTube, please subscribe, like, and share. That helps us a heck of a lot. If you're joining us on the Facebook side of things, like Charlie Beagle says, drop a like before you die. That's just a good advice in general.
Maybe sooner, the sooner the better.
Sooner the better. Also, speaking about getting things done, make sure that you follow Scott's YouTube page at youtube.com/C/Scott Kennedy. I'm going to drop the chat in the comment section here. So that way you guys can click on it. It'll take you to Scott's channel. He's working on a bunch of stuff, and I'll let him plug that here before we get out of here. But make sure you follow that. That helps us a heck of a lot. That helps Scott a heck of a lot. Also follow us both on Twitter. I'm very active on Twitter. My wife would say too active, but I'm addicted. What can I say? It's just too much fun. It's such a fun medium. I love Twitter too much. But follow me at Nick Kendell MHH and follow Scott at Scout Kennedy. And Scott, you want to tell us what's going on? I know you talked about it earlier.
One of my YouTube commenters said, "Can you start talking about like the best teams you ever saw?" I'm like, "Yeah, I can do that. And not only can I do that, I can start bringing in people from all around the country." So, what do you think, Nick? You want to do a best ever show? Is what I'm doing it. I'm calling it Best Ever with Scott Kennedy. I know I'm real original there, but time to brand my own name, right? So, would you be interested in talking about your favorite moments, favorite players, your best team, all 22s with the Denver Broncos next week? Maybe we could do that.
I am 100% game. And I will say I am going to be here next Tuesday, but I'm going to need you to carry the load because I will be from the day before. I will have hiked out with a 40-pound pack. And
that's okay. I thought that was today. So
no. That's next week. So, but I will be joining you guys Tuesday. I will be here Tuesday morning, but I will be struggling, I'm assuming, because I will have hiked 14 miles out and carrying my pack, but it's going to be a good time. I'm really excited. I actually did a few hikes this weekend. It was great. I went up to Lake Serene, saw an avalanche from across the way. Have you ever seen an avalanche, Scott? Oh my God, it's absolutely incredible.
Waterfalls for me. I've seen water avalanches. That's my thing. I have not seen an avalanche.
It was absolutely incredible. And then I also did Mailbox Peak outside of Seattle. Woke up, got to the trailhead at 4:30 a.m., hiked in dark, and then watched the sunrise over Mount Rainier in the distance, and did 9 miles and 4,000 feet of elevation in about 4 hours. So I'm tired.
Well, our former colleague and good friend Mark Pattison is sitting up on. You can find him at NFL for summits or something like. I'll plug him last time, but he's finishing his 7th summit. He's going to be the first former NFL player to climb all 7 summits, and he's up on Mount Everest right now, finishing his 7th. And the NFL Network is doing a documentary on it. So all cool stuff. All cool stuff. I think we're near. I think Seattle is just gorgeous. So
Yeah,
water avalanche from Karaoke Chris.
And I'm sure you're talking
George,
about.
Am I going to do a City Chelsea preview? Maybe. Maybe. I'm actually interested in Chelsea Arsenal tomorrow, just because I hate Williams so much. That I watch Arsenal, and I watch every Arsenal game. I watch every Chelsea game. So we'll see. But I appreciate everybody being here. I appreciate, again, after we do these, I see so many people come through as new subscribers. Thank all of you. I can't do it on there or I'd respond to you. Thanks for subscribing. If you leave a comment, I'm going to tell you. Thank you for subscribing. Yeah. So, but Nick, you got to go to work. There's probably something I got to do. I'll just have to figure it out.
So we'll see you guys again on Thursday morning, 8 a.m., same time, same place. If you guys have anything that you want us to touch on to, marinate it, put it in the coffee so that way we can talk about it Thursday morning. Please get at us on Twitter. But we'll be back Thursday morning, 8 a.m. Broncos for breakfast. We'll see you guys then. Until then, stay safe. We love y'all.